Welcome to the program this week. Mondo Gonzalez in studio, and I have through Skype Steve Quayle, and we're going to be talking about an amazing hidden expedition that you definitely do not want to miss. Well, welcome back, and again, we're going to be talking to Steve here in a moment, but before we do, I want to remind everybody about our upcoming Orlando Prophecy Conference, which is going to be February 29th through March 3rd in the warm, beautiful city in the middle of winter, Orlando, Florida. You can find information about this at orlandoprophecysummit.com. We're going to have over 18 speakers there. And if you're unable to join us and be a part of the festivities, you certainly can live stream. As you know, the world is changing so fast, and 2024 is poised to be one of those years. And so we just ask you to join us through live stream. You can get all the speakers. You can have it for 6 months. Again, information at orlandoprophecysummit.com. Today, we're going to be talking again with somebody you might or might not know. You probably do. Steve Quayle, welcome.
Well, Mondo, what an exciting time to be together, because the headlines are absolutely echoing a change in the world's attitude towards all of the events people are seeing all over the skies of the world, everything from stargates to strange cloud formations, the technological advanced craft, whether they're identified or not, whether they're in the atmosphere, in our absolute, our heavens, or even under the oceans. So we're going to talk about artifacts that shake up the standard narrative of history in such a way, with the ability to involve your viewers in the actual expeditions that took place over 3 years in central Mexico, unearthing artifacts that show aliens, ancient star systems, ancient planetary destruction, i.e. between Mars and Jupiter, where the asteroid belt is. And so we're going to talk about cosmogony, the origin of the cosmos, and cosmology, which I know you are the chronicler photographically that's excellent in that realm. And that's not flattering. And I think people need to know, when we were talking the other day, I was talking about the sweet influence of Pleiades in the book of Job. And you said, Steve, I'm photographing Pleiades right now, known also as the Seven Sisters. And I thought, isn't that cool of God? I'm talking to Mondo Gonzalez. He's got his telescope. And I got to tell you, Mondo, it's a timed gift from the living God to be able to photograph the heavens, but to also put it in the context of the heavens declare the glory of God. And and the earth shows forth his handiwork. We see people bent on destroying the handiwork. We see ancient legends talking about fallen angels and spiritual beings destroying the human genome. And that's what we're going to talk about today is Genesis 6:4. Obviously, let me read it to everybody, because I assume, and maybe you do too, but it's not right to assume that people understand. This is a part of the Bible that's like the Rosetta Stone of understanding technology, seduction, instruction, and all the dark arts, and how we got to where we are right now as pretty much a dying planet, not how God intended, but there were giants in the earth in those days and also after that. That means before the flood and after it, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children of them. The same became the mighty men which were of old, men of renown. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking literally giants, because Nimrod, it's in Scripture, says, and he began to become a Gibborim. That's another word for giant, not just Nephilim, not just Rephaim, but Gibborim. And so what's pertinent to this entire presentation of the Mexico expeditions are because of a series of supernatural events that led my basically director of antiquities, Jesse G., in Mexico to be put on a lead of an area in Mexico in the Tula region, T-U-L-A, of artifacts that were absolutely astonishing, showing some of the most ancient representations of everything from stargates, genetic manipulation between pretty ugly aliens and not so pretty Aztec women and others, even before the Aztecs and the Toltecs or the Olmecs, and the actual production of offspring. So what we're talking about in unearthing, and this is really critical, is unearthing the alien artifacts and also the aliens, is this stuff predates the creation of Adam and Eve, and then from the flood of Noah forward, and after the flood of Noah, the Bible just said in Genesis 6:4, in those days prior to the flood and after those days. So, Mondo, thank you for letting me share this, because, ladies and gentlemen, I'm of the opinion, and Gary Stearman said, when you watch these actual digs of the expedition, shovel by shovel, and they were all found using the state-of-the-art ground-penetrating radar, LIDAR, geo-radar, metal detectors. All of it was located in real time, chronicled in real time, everything from drones to multiple cameras, and you see the unearthing of the artifacts, some as deep as 9 feet, and they're astonishing because they show everything from the double helix, i.e. DNA. They show the planet Saturn. They show the destruction of Rahab or Astra, the planet that was between the orbit of Mars and Jupiter. And the other thing that's interesting is that we have the first cataloged actual instance outside of what the Defense Department and David Gorish was talking about of an actual craft that was levitating. And it was only about, I don't know, 10, 12 feet long. But when Jesse G., my director of antiquities, looked in it, what's common to all of these is the size on the outside does not represent the size on the inside. For instance, there's an article in the the Daily Mail, multiple articles talking about this phenomenon. So we're talking about stargates, portals, orbs, and the orbs the Bible's very clear. Lucifer, Satan, can basically manifest himself as an angel of light. So, you're going to be given an eyeful, an earful, and an understanding that is the containment of the reality of real history by the powers that be. So they do not want at any cost the validity of God's word to be established, because that's why they cover it up. In order to cover it up, the Genesis 6:4 account, they're going to give all kinds of newer revelation to bring the people on earth and claim that there is no God and that the aliens created us. Well, I can tell you this, when you look at the aliens, and Mondo can share his feeling on, those things are ugly. We are talking about, I would say this, visual obscenities. And you look at the let's say Michelangelo's David, or you look at some of the great paintings of the Renaissance, or some of the, whether it's a beautiful woman or a handsome man, or the historic portraits of people, those are the descendants of Adam and Eve. What we're talking about, you see in real time, some really devastatingly ugly creatures. Go ahead, Mondo.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing what we're watching, and we're going to take a little break here where you can see how to get our magazine. But before we do, I want to kind of leave you with something in the sense that we're watching our congressional representatives and senators. They're in closed doors meetings this week. And so when we come back from the break, I want to get Steve's thoughts on that, but take a listen.
In case you haven't noticed, the whole world is spinning out of control, but we are not surprised because many of the things taking place were prophesied in the Bible thousands of years ago. That's why we want to offer you a very special subscription to our magazine, The Prophecy Watcher, that will keep you on the cutting edge of Bible prophecy. Stay informed on prophetic world events. Follow the nuclear threats from Russia and Iran, China's march to world domination, the likelihood of another global pandemic, the rise of artificial intelligence and transhumanism, war in the Middle East, the UFO phenomenon, and the latest technology preparing the world for the mark of the beast. With your gift of $50 or more to support the worldwide outreach of Prophecy Watchers, you will receive 12 issues of the magazine in either print or digital format. You will also receive 10 bonus DVDs that feature in-depth teaching on the ancient book of Enoch, Heaven and the New Jerusalem, the biblical case for the rapture, a look at how God put the gospel in the stars, what really happened at the Tower of Babel, and Ezekiel's prophecy on the Battle of Gog and Magog. This special offer is available anywhere in the United States with free shipping included. Don't wait. Pick up the phone right now and call the toll-free number on your screen or visit us at pwdaystar.com. Stand with us today and help us take the message of Christ's soon return to the whole world.
Well, welcome back. I do hope you get our magazine. It's a great way to stay informed, not only with the Bible, but currently up-to-date prophetic events. And Steve, before the break, we kind of been talking a little bit about it, hinting about it, what's your thoughts on the last few years, especially what we're seeing now as it relates to these whistleblowers coming forward, again, closed-door meetings? I mean, do you think, well, no doubt the government's hiding something, but kind of just what's your initial thoughts on all the things that have been happening over really the past few years and the culmination?
Ladies and gentlemen, what's critical about the controlled release of some information is to assuage or kind of neutralize the statement that the government's hiding things from us. They're hiding everything from us. And I'm told by, people in the know that the whole closed door hearings with all of the, quote, security protocols was basically a controlled narrative. At no point did the government say, yes, we have crashed craft, that's a mouthful, and we have re-engineered or back-engineered them. The famous director of Lockheed Martin, Ben Rich, said there's nothing a person can think of that we haven't already done. And so what's important for people to understand, I think, Mondo, is that these showcase hearings are nothing more than a contained release of a little bit of what everybody knows. But there was no release of, yes, we have live aliens. There was no release of Hangar 18 at Wright-Patterson. There was no release of anything at Area 51. In essence, there was no release of anything valid that was new. And you could go back to look at J. Allen Hynek's Project Blue Book, Air Force Study of UFOs, and understand that, wait a minute, we've been at this thing, quote, since Roswell, 1947. And the thing that's interesting is that they're saying the same arguments. And here we are, 53 76 years later, and in my opinion, they're still trying to stick a false truth, and that would be the military and the intelligence agencies. They're trying to spoon feed pablum when people all over the world are seeing portals opening. They're seeing craft, literal craft. We've got the pilots that filmed the craft off of the Baja in the area of the Coronado Islands. We're seeing all kinds of events visually, hearing from eyewitness testimony. And again, it becomes almost a slap in the face that they think that the whole world that knows what's going on will believe their lies.
I think the important thing for our listeners, too, is to remember, or even our culture, is that we've moved way beyond the tinfoil hats, conspiracy theory, craziness, that obviously there's a real threat. The government's talking about it. We're getting, very little true or real information, as you said, out of millions of pages. We're getting, I would say, even less than crumbs. But let's transition here for a moment, because one of the things that I found fascinating in the DVD series is talking about, maybe you'll share that with us, how and why you came across the Tula region. What kind of led you to begin doing research and expeditions down to this specific area?
Well, the director of Gen 6 Antiquities, Jesse G., has a brother, a biological brother, who's a famous doctor in that region. They had a flood, and one of the hills is on the property that his brother owned. And interestingly enough, artifacts started, when the floods came, the artifacts were being turned up and literally unearthed. And as rumor got around in Mexico, people started contacting us and showing us some amazing stuff. There are some people in Mexico, different areas, that have literally hundreds of artifacts, everything from horn skulls, crystal skulls, panels that are 4 to 6 feet, 4 feet by 6 feet, and they're half a ton. And our director of antiquities is blindfolded, driven around. This sounds like a really cool movie script, and taken to a place after they took his cell phone, his camera. He was basically vertigoized and taken up, winding roads and everything. And the individuals had basically come into possession of a craft that's a smaller version of Uma Uma. It was suspended in the air like the famous Independence Day, the craft UFO, when they kick out the supports. It's just electrogravitic. That's a word that simply means a propulsion system that overcomes gravity, and offered the craft. But they wanted, the people that brought Jesse there, because they had heard of Gen 6, wanted $1 million in cash. Well, that was out of our reach, my reach. And it was interesting because our expeditions are always followed by pretty much every 3-letter agency that exists in the world. And by the grace of God, we were able to at least see it. Jesse saw it, and you can bring up on the screen a specific artist sketch of the entire incident. But ladies and gentlemen, we've been pre-programmed by Hollywood for all these decades that this is the stuff that's coming out. And as Jesse, again, my director of antiquities for Gen 6, was being shown this, they ran a branch under the suspended craft. When he looked into that craft, it was vastly larger than the 10, 12 feet, whatever it was. And so what is critical about the Gen 6 productions, and we take our name from Genesis 6:4. I wrote one of the original books on Gen 6 giants. The late Chuck Missler said, Steve Quayle is the one that brought Gen 6:4 alive to the Christian community. It was an obscure passage that very few people even referenced. And so I thank the Lord that he's allowed us, me, to be on the cutting edge. And he's brought people from Daniel Holdings, brilliant scriptwriter. Everybody associated with Gen 6 at this point knows Jesus. Their passion is Jesus, to make him known. And that's what separates this, because our expedition has to be prepared with extreme prayer and fasting, because we're talking about some very, very evil spiritual entities attached to this whole concept and attached to this whole, what would you say, revelation of the ancients. And I believe this, Solomon said it simply, there's nothing new under the sun. That which will be has already been. Jesus said, just as in the days of Noah, so would it be in the days of the coming of the Son of Man.
Yeah, we're living in a complete age of deception. And here we are, again, at the end of the age. Jesus warned right at the beginning, when that time comes, make sure that no one deceives you. And we're going to take a little break here where you can see how to get, again, Steve's 4-DVD set, documenting the excavations and the expeditions that they've done, as well as sharing, again, the testimony of Jesse, and also, the presentation of the gospel, which we want to get to. So take a listen.
For the last 40 years, Steve Quayle has been at the forefront of controversial subjects that make people uncomfortable. Steve, along with Gary Stearman, were two of the first Bible scholars writing about the strange events that took place in Genesis 6:4, which describe a group of rebellious angels who left their heavenly home, married the women of earth, and produced a hybrid creation the Hebrew scriptures call the Nephilim. It may sound strange, but it was part of Lucifer's attempt to corrupt the bloodline of mankind, men and women made in the image of God, and at the same time corrupt the bloodline of Jesus. This led to the flood of Noah, where God destroyed his entire creation, save Noah and his family. Even more complicated is the history of our planet. While mankind has been here for 6,000 years, the Bible seems to indicate in a few obscure places that there was an angelic civilization here before Adam and Eve, managed by Lucifer. There is a dark, revenge-driven side to Lucifer, the prince of the power of the air. We believe the current rise in UFO activity, corroborated by military pilots and whistleblowers, along with dramatically increased UFO activity, leads us to believe this supernatural activity is about to escalate and deceive the world. There are so many unanswered questions. Gigantic pyramids under the ocean near the Bermuda Triangle, images of ancient flying machines, massive unexplainable megalithic structures, an extinct planet called Rahab, hidden Nephilim archaeology in the Grand Canyon, a cover-up at the Smithsonian. Fascinating subjects. Steve believes that mankind has had multiple encounters throughout history with extraterrestrials. His latest archaeological dig in Mexico has produced shocking artifacts that confirm these human and alien encounters in the ancient past. These finds include images of the human DNA helix indicative of the manipulation of the human genome. Using ground-penetrating radar, you'll be taken to the live dig as these strange treasures are pulled out of the ground on camera. Leave it to Steve to expose these artifacts to the world. The Mexico Expeditions has been recorded on 6 hours of eye-opening video. All 4 DVDs can be yours for your gift of $100 or more to support the television outreach of Prophecy Watchers. As an added bonus, we've included 4 bonus DVDs from Gary and Mondo, along with L.A. Marzulli and Doug Woodward. The Supernatural Book DVD covers the Nephilim and the UFO phenomenon, while Gary and Doug will open your eyes to the history of Mars and the mysteries of the Red Planet. And, as always, we'll ship Steve's entire Mexico Expedition set along with the 4 bonus DVDs to you for free anywhere in the USA. Call the toll-free number you see on your screen or visit our online bookstore at prophecywatchers.com. For our international friends, please note that additional shipping fees will apply and all transactions are in US dollars. Thanks for tuning in today and supporting the work we do here at Prophecy Watchers. We're watching. We hope you're watching too.
Well, welcome back. And Steve, we right before the break, kind of given us a history of what has happened down there in Mexico, and as well as the connection that we have, the deception that we're living in, kind of give people who are watching here, they're seeing the movies, they're seeing Hollywood, all these other things, aliens this, aliens that, we're seeing it in our government, having closed door meetings. The truth, well, at least probably in the next, in this age, we might not get it all. But how does this connect in your mind? Because obviously you're invested in this, but you're invested in it because of the gospel. Kind of share with our audience how this impacts you and your desire to see people know the gospel of Jesus Christ.
Well, first of all, you quoted Jesus' statement, "See that you be not deceived." And I would say the absolute spirit, evil spirit, is the gates of hell open in our time frame and right now in our physical dimension, is all based on deception. The narrative that's coming out of the military, the hearings, all of the officialdom is, in my opinion, false narrative. Now, Jesus said men's hearts are going to fail them for fear of looking after those things coming upon the earth. for the powers of heaven are going to be shaken. And what's astonishing, and I can't think of a more powerful word, mind-blowing, mind-boggling, is the fact that this relates specifically to the promise in Genesis 3:15 that God put humanity, which he created in his image and likeness, at perpetual war with the devil and his seed. Now that's Genesis 3:15. So it's not optional. We're in there. So Mondo, the basis of our excavation and our unearthing these ancient artifacts is to allow people to understand that it's not just the old stuff. It's going to be the oldest lie in the world, that you're going to be as God and you're not going to die, transhumanism. And what is my goal in Gen 6 is to hold that at abeyance, the entire lie that God, there's no God, there's no Redeemer, Jesus Christ. It's the aliens that created us. And that's just simply the false narrative. Again, I got to hit this, Mondo. The purpose of our Gen 6 production is to keep people from being deceived, because they're going to see an alternative salvation being offered. And so what is important, I think at this point, is to interfere with the false narrative that the devil and his angels, who control most of the earthly governments, Jesus said, the whole world lies in the evil one. And the Lord asked me one time, when I was meditating on that, he said, Steve, what don't you understand about the word whole? In essence, I was hoping that there was let's say, one star in that star system that wasn't. All creation fell. And so what's just marvelous is that I believe that this is some of the revelation, Mondo, that God wants released in order to protect his people. Because you know the scripture, God says his people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. So if they're destroyed by lack of knowledge, then they'll be preserved by the presentation of that knowledge.
Appreciate your time, Steve. We are out of time, everybody, but if you want to learn more about what Steve's talking about or find some of our other material, go to prophecywatchers.com, go along the tab there. You can see the other dozen places you can find us on radio, on YouTube, Roku, you name it, we're out there. Lots of information for this time of the end of the age that we're on. So appreciate you watching this week. I appreciate your prayers as always for the ministries that we're doing here. We could not do it without your prayers and support. So appreciate watching, and we'll see you next time.
The media ministry of Prophecy Watchers exists only through the faithful prayer and financial support of friends like you. So, won't you do what you can to keep this teaching on the air? You can make your gift at prophecywatchers.com.